Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's another beautiful day in paradise. The temperature is 78 degrees, according to Thomas Jefferson. Humidity is 35%, and the wind is at 3.8 miles an hour, although it's not evident where I'm walking. So there we have it. The issues before the country are severe. There is progress toward husbanding the forces of resistance who support the Republic, an individual's right to vote, equal justice before the law, and full and fair processes. There is, however, a development that's tragic and cannot be ignored, and it's the ill health of Trump. A member of Congress asked the other day whether Trump was unhinged and unwell. She was asking after Trump's degrading mental state. Now, he's shown evidence of dementia, and he's been a malignant narcissist his entire life. And unlike you or I, who, in the best moments of our life, care for others, and perhaps care more for others than for ourselves because of love and family responsibility. These things do not seem to affect Trump. And so we have a fella who's ill, who can put his finger to the button, who can bomb fishermen, who can bomb Iran's nuclear sites. And we have a chirpy press secretary talking about imagined med beds. We have lost touch with reality, and it's time that we return. Representative Madeleine Dean asked the Speaker if Trump was not unhinged and unwell, and he never denied it. What he said was, and you have unhinged and unwell people, as if there is some sort of equivalence that the Republic must sustain itself with unwell people, including those who have their finger on the button, who are responsible for a government shutdown, who are calling out the troops in various places in America to suppress basically demonstrations against the administration. We have a man who has dreams of a Nobel Peace Prize for the shifty and deceptive ways he postures the situation in the Middle East with Hamas and Israel, and similarly in Ukraine with Russia. We see him on a daily basis talk about firing people from the civil service, and that's going to haunt him. We basically see messaging in the civil service that violates the Hatch Act, meaning that you're not allowed, if a federal employee, to be engaged in politics. And there are signs all over the government agencies these days, and horrific Big Brother posters of Trump as well. The world is unsettled by Trump. A man in Denmark, I read, saw drones in the last couple of days fly near his home. Is Trump creating a world as unsettled as he that could, in one of his moments of braggadocio, go off and start a world war? Sure, Trump speaks of peace. He speaks of how he has a peace program, how to deal with Gaza and Hamas and Israel. But he said, we have the deal now and the details later. What does that mean? Are we saying that the details are not in conflict and so we can have an agreement? Or does he just want an agreement that could fall through by which he could con the award of a Nobel Peace Prize? This is how sick this administration is. It's all mirrors, it's all false, it's all AI, fraudulent AI, even of himself, which I suggest he probably filmed and then pretends like he's passing it on when in fact he's the originator of it. So, deal now, details later. From time to time, my professional career as a practicing attorney, people have entered into agreements to agree. And I've always thought, that's not a real agreement. What is the consideration back and forth? And I guess it's a first draft of a deal, and so why don't I give it that weight? So are we going to really see hostages surrendered before Hamas knows how it's going to be handled under this agreement? So I think this is so much vaporware, what we're seeing, and that it's not going to come to pass. There's conversation today about 2025. The document that Trump denied while he was a candidate, ever reading, didn't know anything about it, didn't support it. And other people in his administration said that. Those of us who thought we knew Trump knew that was nonsense, didn't believe it for a second. Some may have thought it was for years, and instead, it's really, a matter of months that Trump hoped to implement this thing. And it's really a march to the dictatorship of Trump. But on the way to that march, they didn't consider how his health could fail as it has. And we don't know the exact range of it, but we've seen him just wander. The staff at the White House must have given him a speech to give to the generals, and he didn't give it. Could he not read it? Did he not think it through? He wandered from one thing to another. A word salad. A speech without direction. A president without coherence. You can't even say he had a middling level of coherence. I mean, I thought it was honest when he said, never been in a quiet room before. But he didn't know enough that soldiers are not supposed to reflect politically, publicly, in uniform. Because we didn't want a standing army that was there to take over the government. We wanted one that would serve. And Trump basically instructed them to ignore their rules of profession. Because he's a man for whom, whatever his ill or confident state of mind, he has no use for rules. He does what he wants, like a spoiled child, grown full and now feeble. And this isn't about age, this is a genuine illness. I think we probably learned something about age in our presidents. That I don't want to lean on it too heavy because I hate to cut out really qualified people in the future, but maybe 80 or 76 is the last age that you can run for president. I mean, it's a demanding position when done legitimately. Obama used to joke how he was the skeleton, how his wife looked better after he left office. There is that. But no one who does the job, well or poorly, comes out of it without a heavy burden to repair oneself again. Another good example of what's wrong with this administration, top to bottom. Well, you know, we had the former FBI head in the crosshairs, and we prosecutors, we issued a joint letter. I didn't write it, but I was one of the 1,000 who signed it, basically saying that we can't have vindictive prosecutions. And we've spoken about that yesterday. But what about now? What are we dealing with that's similar? You may remember the Garcia case. Garcia was a person who was barred from being surrendered to El Salvador, and yet our government did exactly that and put him in a cell, even as they admitted to making a mistake. It took court litigation to finally get him released from that custody. He came back to the States and he was charged with crimes. The judge in the case has taken a look at it, and as recently as the last 24 hours, has issued an order saying there was no connection between the crimes and Garcia. And the judge thought this was a vindictive prosecution. And there's plenty of public statements that prove all of that. But the judge is giving the government a chance to come in and offer any explanation at all. So here we have Comey's case, in which the government is chasing a man who hasn't committed a crime just to punish him, using the power of the government to do so. And the same government is chasing Garcia because he had the temerity to say, you shouldn't be sending me there. This is the state of America. We have, as we have from the beginning, had an incompetent president who doesn't give a damn about any of our laws or our Constitution, in bad health himself, and unable to execute his office, unable to put together whole sentences. And the people are coming out of the woodwork now to look at the public life he's had and to compare how he spoke on The Apprentice, how he speaks now, how he walked the first time he ran for president, 2015-16, how he walks now. The words that he says and how even a single word gets transformed into a piece of garbage and not understandable and only fit for late night amusements. That's what we have. So I'd like to find a hero instead to talk about, and in criminal justice. I have known Barry Scheck for most of my political, legal career. Barry and Peter Neufeld have been in charge of a thing called the Innocence Project. And I've written articles about the subject this way. If we're prosecuting and convicting innocent people, then our system's not working, because there is no defense for prosecuting and convicting a person who is innocent. The question is, how can you have this to a scientific accuracy be the case? And the answer became DNA. And the hero that I speak of is Edward Blake. He died at 80. He worked with Barry Scheck in the Innocence Project. He worked with lots of other people as well. And he made findings that allowed, with small samples, to have accurate DNA that could be determined to include or exclude someone for crimes. And over the years, the Innocence Project has cleared 250 people. One of my proud moments was I had a case in Florida, and I managed to get my client out of state prison there because he was really being prosecuted just because he was a pain patient, and the governor understood that. And so he was released from a 25-year prison sentence just years after the conviction by former counsel who had well represented him, but the legal system was against my client. And Barry sent me a note saying I was a mensch. And I said it couldn't compare to his work, which is true. His work is a model of what good and great lawyers do. And Peter and Blake, the forensic expert, who figured out a way to legitimately consider, do we have the right man or woman or person? And there have been spectacular examples of this. So we have the good, the best, the greatest. And then we have these criminals in the Oval Office. We have these people compromising our government at every turn. But we're pushing back in the court. We're pushing back at No Kings rallies. We're pushing back on the Hill, despite the weariness of some of the people there. But when you have a congresswoman speak to a speaker and say, he's not well, and the speaker has no guilt, he just looks uncomfortable when confronted with that fact. So we have to change that, and I think we are. It may not be fast enough for any of us, not me, not you, but it's happening. And I think it's a question of time, and it's a question of resolve, and it's a question of having a faith that we're relying on something that is real, not just hope, not some Pollyannish hope, but the real thing. There are developments that favor the restoration of the Republic, of our votes, of equal justice before the law. And that's what we're working on. So that's what I got to say for today. All the best. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.